Good morning, everybody. This is Robbie Ayu from the Localization Fireside Chat, and welcome to another conversation. Today is Thursday, June 11th, and as you can see, I'm using my virtual background, which means I am not at my usual home studio where I record these podcasts. And on a personal note, for the audience, my 85-year-old mother fell at home, and I had to fly down to help. So I'm working from my parents' house, and you don't want to see the clutter behind me. I'm just sitting in a small room with lots of clutter behind me, so I decided to put a virtual background for my podcast recording for this week. So I appreciate you guys putting up with me, and I'm promising you next week we'll go back into the home office, and hopefully things will go back to normal in terms of our recording. So that's on the personal note. And I just want to make sure that we address this episode here appropriately. So this episode, I guess, will be 233, I think, by the time we post-edit this. As you know, we host various opinions, various conversations on this channel. And today, my guest of honor, Kate Crane, and we'll get to know Kate in a minute here. A few weeks ago, I got a cold email from Kate referencing Jürgen Dauk, I guess, the podcast that I did, that was episode 200 with Jürgen from Germany, and it sort of struck a note with Kate, and she said would like to get on the show and express a few opinions or share her story, which we are going to be doing today. Kate graduated with a degree in art history, which is not exactly the standard launch pad you would imagine in a tech career. She faced early setbacks, rebuilt from scratch, and with the help of mentors, earned an MBA and went on to help scale DoorDash B2B business from $9 million to over $500 million. And she later served as a vice president for OpenTable, leading restaurant strategy and growth. I want to welcome Kate to the conversation. I can't wait to get to know you, Kate, and happy always to share success stories and resilience stories, which, according to what I've read about you and the research I did about you, you exhibit a lot of resilience in your career track. So welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the channel. Let's get into it.
Hi, yes, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
I really appreciate it, Kate. Kate, as we say on this channel, everybody get the easy one first, the easy question. I mean, what's your story? What got you here? For people who don't know you, never met you before, can you tell us your story if you don't mind?
Yeah, you touched on it briefly, but I have a very meandering career, and I think that meandering jungle gym of a career rather than a ladder is definitely what makes me unique, and it's definitely shaped how I think about the world and how I think about business, and relevant to what I do now as a career coach, managing people.
And so, where did it all start with you? Where are you from? Where did it all start? What's your life story?
Sure, yeah. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. Fort Worth is a funny little town. It's the sidekick to Dallas, as many people believe. Fort Worth is pretty distinct in its own right. It's a it's kind of like the gateway to West Texas. It has a lot of cattle culture, cowboy culture, but some may know it actually has a very rich arts community, performing and visual, symphony, ballet, the Clyburn competition. It's a international piano competition, and then three wonderful art museums: the Kimball, the Modern, and the Amon G. Carter Museum. So I grew up in this arts community. I became kind of obsessed with art and art history in high school, and when I went to college, I knew that I wanted to study both art history, and business. So I went to UT Austin. At UT, I had 5 internships. I did all the right things, all the things you're supposed to do to get the job you want out of college. And so I moved to New York to work at an art gallery in Chelsea, kind of the coolest of cool for that
Of course.
era. And unfortunately, that was 2008. So I was laid off 6 months into that job. It was a wonderful experience. I love the gallerists. I love the gallery. They're still around. Um, Letting me go helped them survive. So I'm supportive of that. But it definitely changed my trajectory significantly. I applied to 50 jobs after that layoff. I got 3 interviews. And frankly, um, a role with my experience, my level of experience in the arts at that time just wasn't viable. So I had to start over and think, what do I want to do? What do I want to do with my life? Now that this thing that I thought I wanted to do is just not viable. And so that led me to articulating to myself that I like yoga. I like watching the Food Network. I like hosting dinner parties and cooking because we were all, effectively broke and couldn't go to restaurants as liberally as we wanted to. And so that led me to pursuing something in the culinary field. I talked my way into a restaurant to be a line cook, and I was at one if by land, two if by sea for a couple months. But ultimately, that experience was incredible, and it was the most humbling professional experience of my career. A kitchen is a hard place, and at the end of that, decided that I didn't want to go to culinary school. I would rather go to business school because at a high level, I wanted to own the kitchen and not work in the kitchen. So I moved home. I moved back in with my family. I worked for my family for a year and I applied to business school. So I went to UT Austin again for my MBA, focusing in finance to build a balance to that art degree. From there, I went into management consulting, focusing in oil and gas. I did 5 years in that industry. And then my then boyfriend, now husband, and I looked up and said we didn't want to be in Houston anymore. And we took another leap of faith and we moved to Denver. And I took that opportunity to really refocus on what I really wanted to do, where I really wanted to be. Management consulting was an incredible learning experience. Oil and gas was the most employable industry for me to join after business school, but it's not really what I was the most passionate about. So I pivoted to food and I was looking for jobs in anywhere in the food ecosystem. And that's when I found DoorDash. So I joined DoorDash on the driver side of the business. I did a year on that team managing the mountain markets. So Denver, West, excluding California. And then I actually did take over California for a little bit, and learned really the fundamentals of what a heavy logistics company like DoorDash does. And then I transitioned over to the merchant side of the business. So that's when I joined DoorDash Drive. And as you mentioned, when I joined that team, they were doing 9 million in revenue annually. When I helped grow U.S. restaurants, I was the GM of U.S. restaurants over that 3-year period. At points, I had Canada and Australia, and at points, I had catering and the pizza business. As any startup, we reorganize quarterly, it seemed. But the essence of that consistency was U.S. restaurants. And when I left that team, we did an annualized 500 million in revenue. So really incredible growth, definitely consistent with the rest of DoorDash as well. We had COVID in the middle of that. We had an IPO in the middle of that. It was a really wild time to be at DoorDash, but really foundational to the rest of my career because it is a really incredibly well-run business. And then I had my first daughter and I moved over to corporate development, which was really a bet on myself to try to learn some new skills and work for some really wonderful people that were standing up that department. Then I was offered a job I really couldn't refuse. I left DoorDash not because I was tired of being at DoorDash, but because I was given this wonderful opportunity to go to Flock Safety and stand up strategy and operations, which in essence also included, not in essence, foundationally included running the data department as well. So we rebuilt the data and analytics function to be a full stack data team so that we could use data to make decisions in the strategy and operations department. And then I did 2.5 years there, had another daughter, and then I moved over to OpenTable. Um, and at OpenTable, I ran go-to-market strategy, so bringing new products to market, and then all of the functions that bring that to life. And
Now,
now I'm a career coach.
I was just going to say, now you're a career coach.
Yeah.
Now, looking back at the trajectory, and anecdotally for me, I know the low points in people's lives, to be honest with you, and that's how this podcast has started by trying to figure out from these conversations the ebbs and flows, if you want to call it, or the ups and downs in people's lives and where they end up at the end of the day. And life is it's a balancing act to most part. There's the highs and there's the lows. Uh, if you were to look back at your life, if you don't mind, Kate, for where you are right now, what would you consider the lowest point? Is it the 2008?
Ooh. Um, yeah, that was a real low. That was really real. That was very difficult. Um, it was as a, straight A student, very athletic, like competitive person, to do all the things quote unquote right, and then to have that rug pulled out from under me was like foundation shaking. That was really hard.
It's a hard thing to take, right? So
Mhm.
trust me, it is not easy to feel such feelings at the time when you have so much on go. You think you're doing the right thing, and then all of a sudden things don't pan out the same way you plan them, and
Mhm.
there you go. But we are human, and we what do you call it? We get up and go again, and then we try again. We don't surrender that easy. You credit mentors, Kate, with helping you rebuild, and I love how you've taken on a new role now in career coaching and development. Um, what did a great mentor actually do for you? That particular person or organization, whatever you want to call it, that you could not be done alone.
Yeah, I had two mentors in my 20s, um, that really helped me. And I'll say that, I mean, there were many conversations around what I was exploring, advice that they were giving, but the most impactful thing that both of them did for me is that they believed in me. One was Arden Moore, who's a friend of my father's, and he was very passionate about helping me get to business school, advising me on the application process, and then really um, making sure that I was heard and that my value was seen in that application. And as anyone that's applied to schools knows, that's or a job, that's the game. Is like you're not just throwing out a resume; you're trying to articulate value. And Arden was really helpful in me finding out how to articulate that and then believing in me in that process. The other was Elaine Agather. I'm still close with both of them, but I'm still very close with Elaine. And Elaine coached me or mentored me through business school and onward, um, at every career turn or promotion cycle or whatever the case may be. Um, I sought to be in her office once every 6 months, to maintain the relationship outside of our family. We're family friends. She's actually a competitor of my mother's, and but sh and she many times tried to get me to come work for her, but it wasn't an industry that I was that excited to work in, because I'd seen it. My mother, I was her competitor, so it would have been awkward to start with. But even that aside, she was just unflappably positive that I could do hard things and would give me guidance on how to position myself and how to show up professionally. And I really valued that. And so as I became a people manager, that I definitely took that like coaching and positivity into the career side of that, which has pulled through to what I do today.
And for those who are listening to this podcast, which many of them are entrepreneurs or professionals out there in these sort of small to medium business primarily, but we have a few large organizations out there. They listen to the podcast regularly. When they hear that, one of the good experiences you've had is the ability to take a $9 million DoorDash business to when you left around $500 million. It's quite the success story, and they probably want to peel the onion a little bit, if you will, on that little conversation. Now, you during that, I think I read somewhere that you said you were never been more motivated than during the pandemic years
Mhm.
for at DoorDash. And I'm assuming that was like the heyday for you for DoorDash, because people were not moving around and they wanted to get access to things, and DoorDash was one of them. Can you just help us understand how that growth journey worked for you?
Yeah. For simplicity, there's like three phases of growth. The first was when we started, and the we were effectively like a second phase of the team. So there was a team that kind of stood up this white label business that was DoorDash Drive, that took it from like zero to zero point 0.5. And then we were the team that came in at zero point 0.5 to take it to one or two, right? And in that first couple months, we were trying lots of things. How do we, because it wasn't just a sales game of we need more stores in the platform and more partnerships. We needed to figure out how to get more delivery orders for these brands that had never marketed their own delivery channels today. And I can say that very confidently, but we didn't understand that that was the game, and for like 6 to 9 months. And so what we found, the the real aha for us was understanding what were our actual goals. One part of DoorDash's magic is that they have a really intense and tight operating system of weekly business reviews at the executive level, and then like cascading business reviews upward that kind of roll each hierarchy up. And so they start Tuesday morning and they end Wednesday afternoon. Wednesday afternoon being the like Tony Shu level weekly business review. And it's because it's so tight, we talk about, are we on track, off track, ahead, and what's working and not working weekly. And so you're pivoting weekly. And we figured out, I think I've been on the team for like 5 weeks, and we figured out that we were actually going to beat our gross profit target for the month of July. And we were not incentivized to do that. We were incentivized to meet our gross profit target. And so we quickly figured out, like, okay, how do we reinvest that into the business? And that reinvestment spurred a whole strategy where we could incentivize brands to market their own business, which then drove a flywheel for us. And so I'll credit that, like, knowing what your goals are, understanding what your actual goals are. Is it volume? Is it store count? Is it gross? Is it making money, gross profit? Because you would assume more gross profit is great, but no, they were looking at growth and hitting your target, and you can actually achieve more growth by not exceeding gross profit, by like reinvesting in it. So that clarity was really helpful, and then having the ability to experiment. We experimented greatly, and I can remember one quarter, I think it was like 2019 maybe. I asked for a $20 million marketing budget, and or 10, or I don't know, something crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. And people were like, that's insane. They're never going to give that to you. And I was like, hey, I'm not asking for more money. I'm asking for like budgeted gross margin relief. And when they understood like how I was using the money, and that it actually fueled growth, it was like, oh, okay. But it came down to that raw strategy. And let me know if you want me to peel into that strategy more. But the numbers and the clarity of the goaling was really core to it.
So when you were working for DoorDash, do you consider DoorDash was a large corporation? Was it operating like an entrepreneur? Was it operating like a small to medium, or was it like a regular corporate company with corporate structure, etc.? Because a lot of people listening to this is going to say, Well, good luck passing that through the board. I
I
don't.
know.
It's
So
just like, how far were you from the decision making process? I guess.
yeah, so when I joined, there was only like 350 people.
Okay.
Um, and that was like summer of 2017. So when I joined Drive, summer of 2018, let's call it 500 people. It was still a pretty small company compared to what it is today. Um, and like, I think we had just raised a Series D. Like, it was still small. Um, when I joined Drive, I think we just raised our Series D. Um, and so small that like when I joined, Tony had just stopped personally interviewing every hire. So it was very entrepreneurial. It was very entrepreneurial with constraints. Hit your
Yep.
numbers, know your numbers, hit your numbers. But within that, go experiment and go figure out like what needs to be true to go do that. They have a concept they still use today, possibly too much, called a speedboat meeting, which is like, here's an experiment and we're going to meet every 2 weeks to talk about what's working and not working. It might be an 8-month experiment, but we want to know at a set frequency what's working and not working. So they still have that very entrepreneurial mindset. And as they launch new products or move into new areas, um, I'm not surprised knowing how they operate. I mean, one of their founders, Stanley, he is technically the chief product officer, but effectively he's like the experiments person. Like, he stood up robots 10 years ago. So there are very intentional areas of experimentation, and then there's more intention. There's other areas that are more corporate today,
Yeah.
like Marketplace and DashPass, because they have to be, because they're the crux of the business.
What do you think the biggest mistake go-to-market teams make in what you saw probably from DoorDash? Do you see some mistakes you had to correct,
Hmm.
especially when they're trying to scale the business? And as you said, scaling, fixing, building all at the same time. Like, you don't have the time to think, I'm assuming.
I think that um, what DoorDash does well, and what I've seen struggle at other companies, is measuring your experimentation and making sure that measure, like, even at an experiment, if it succeeds, how does it impact the P&L? If it's going to really succeed, how will it, like, know what this is going to do? Not just that you think it's going to be cool,
Yeah.
or that it's going to work or it's going to drive growth, quote unquote. But like, is it a $10 million opportunity? Is it $100 million opportunity? And so when DoorDash thought, when I built experiments, I knew what I was trying towards, and then I was measuring it at a tight frequency. In other companies I've worked at, that has not been the case. Either we didn't measure it, we didn't have clear goals, it didn't tie into the P&L. And then if something started to falter, there was no frequency to know, is it working or is it not working, and no clear impact. Is this really going
I'm
to drive the
assuming
business or not?
I'm assuming like if you measure once 6 months or once a year, too late down the road.
Oh, way too late.
Yeah, you
You could have
just
known in week 6 that it was not working. Shut it off.
yeah, yeah. Just you got to move on from there. Now, I remember I personally used DoorDash during pandemic, and all of a sudden it became like a critical infrastructure. Like, people were relying on it. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure if that was the intention of the design of putting the company together at the beginning, but
Yeah,
then who knew that they're going to be a pandemic, and the company is going to become a critical infrastructure to millions and millions of people who are relying on it.
yeah.
So there must have been a bump into the demand. How did you or DoorDash in general manage to absorb the demand? I'm sure they did not reject customers, but how did you
Nope.
absorb the demand? Recruit and provide that elasticity in growth as well.
Yeah. Um, it was a true all hands on deck experience. Um, when you onboard a new restaurant, so because there were two elements. So DoorDash is a three-sided marketplace, right? You have consumers, you have restaurants, and you have drivers, dashers. And we think about it, and the company is organized like that. Are you a consumer, a merchant, or a dasher person? So
Yeah.
I started on dasher and I went to merchant. Um, so we were trying to help consumers feed themselves. We were trying to help dashers make money so they could feed themselves because many of their jobs were not viable, or if they were already hourly and then they couldn't, their store was closed, etc. They were dashing to pay bills, and then for merchants, they were trying to find another revenue stream because they didn't because their restaurants were closed. Um, so on the merchant side, when you onboard a merchant, you physically have to create their menus. And so it was an all hands on deck for the entire company to create menus because we had so many restaurants that were turning on DoorDash for the first time. And I'll say that we already had a culture of being kind of in the weeds with our customers, our stakeholders, what, whatever side of that marketplace you're on. Um, I think it's still they paused this during COVID. I think it's now a requirement again. But every person in the company has to do a delivery, has to do a dash every month. Tony, Prabir, like whomever, it doesn't matter where you are in the company, everybody dashes every month. And so that mindset carried over to we're helping the merchant today. Like this is not like in theory we work at this company. No, you dash, you order your own food on DoorDash, and also like you're in the back end and you know how the back end works. So that because we're making all this possible. That was also pre IPO, and so most of our systems weren't very locked down yet. We didn't have SOX compliance requirements yet. Now the systems are very locked down, but this was pre-lockdown. And I will say that there's also a very very strong ethos of customer first. Be customer obsessed, not competitor focused, is one of the DoorDash isms that I've carried forward in my life and other career stops. But Kofi was the CMO at the time. He left DoorDash 2 weeks ago. He's wonderful. But within 6 days of the pandemic starting, he came up with this marketing campaign called Open for Business. And the entire industry rallied around it. Competitors, as well as kind of like ancillary in the ecosystem, we rallied around this concept of Open for Business. But that was pervasive among the employees. As I gave speeches to my teams about like, what are we going to do this week? What are we focusing on? Our mantra was, how do we help our clients stay open? How do we help them survive the pandemic? What needs to be true for them? But it was a top-down ethos.
Just for the customers who are listening, sorry, for the audience who's listening out there right now, what's the definition of a customer for DoorDash? Who's the customer?
Well, that's the three-sided marketplace. So you have consumers who are ordering. We have merchants where we are providing an avenue for incremental revenue, and we have dashers who were providing an opportunity to earn money.
That's very important because it's almost like a three-dimensional chess game when you add the employees to it too, because they're a part of your team as well, and some of them have become a little bit more integral to your business, and you rely on them, and you want them to succeed so you can succeed, etc. Which moves me to the next segment of our conversation. You sat on both sides of the table, I guess, and what is the single? The question becomes here, from a candidate perspective, what is the single biggest thing candidates believe about hiring that is pretty much completely wrong?
I think your background is important. It's context, and it can speak to the hard skills you have. But the most important thing is work ethic and demonstrating that you are smart, you're going to figure it out, and you're going to have a strong set of ethics as you contribute to the team. And that's what I looked for. That's what I look for when I'm hiring somebody. I also need them to have the hard skills I need for the role, but that's what I'm looking for in their like behaviors.
So when you were, a VP, for instance, and you were hiring people, what made you say yes to a candidate who looked weak on paper? I'm not sure if that's ever happened to you, but let's assume it does. And what made you pass on a person for someone who looked strong on paper? Because there's always that, I've had a few of these podcasts here on this channel where I talk about I call it bot to bot nowadays, fighting with each other. You've got a bot who's writing the CV, you've got another bot who's evaluating these. And I'm guessing the candidate and the recruiter are sitting at Starbucks at different locations having coffee. Uh,
Yeah.
and the AI is trying to do the synthesizing of the information, see who flows to the top, basically. From your perspective, it comes down to being a human at the end of the day. And, because at the end, you got to still, we're not at an age where people are hiring agents, but agentic stuff. But let's assume we're hiring a human person right now in this case.
Yeah, I have I have two people that I'm thinking about specifically who were either had so one candidate actually failed the analytics test. Um, but I liked his background. I can't remember his actual background. Oh, he was an entrepreneur. But in person, and I was hiring for an account manager. The account management team that I managed when on Drive, it was a lot of people skills, and a lot of we were inventing things. So I needed a kind of an entrepreneur mindset. Um, and we would figure, with him, I he definitely was weaker on the data side, but he was so strong in person and telling his story and helping me understand how he was going to interact with clients that we hired him. He's continued to struggle with data and reports, but we figured it out, like it. But I was very I loved managing him. He is wonderful, and I'm very happy for what he's done beyond DoorDash. And then the other person I'm thinking about, she'd worked at 3 different startups, and I was hiring for it was my first strategy and operations hire at Flock Safety. So Kit, if you're listening to this, it's you. But I was trying to find people that could go figure out how to solve problems because I didn't know what kind of problems we were going to solve yet. I knew I knew generally the parts of the business that we were going to go explore and try to find efficiencies and make them stronger, but I didn't know what we were going to go solve. And so I found this woman who had worked at startups and had been in kind of effective chief of staff roles and was going to go work hard and figure it out. That is, kind of expanding into recruiting. That is the kind of thing that the automated applicant tracking system, the AI that is used in these application processes now, is just not like, I can't find that. I feel
No.
bad for the kids of the world who will struggle with these algorithms in future applications.
So where do you stand on the entire AI conversation, Kate, from a polished resume to screening tools?
Okay, first I'm a heavy user of AI. Claude is my best friend, and I use AI every day. I have 3 different tools. I use Notion. I'm a big advocate, and I think it's fascinating. That said, the ecosystem of applicants applying online today, in my opinion, is broken. I think it is working really well for employers. They're getting a lot of applicants, and they have the tools to manage that pipeline. And I'm sure that the people they're hiring are good enough. But for the applicant, there's too many applications per role, which is leading for roles to be turned off before they actually have enough candidates. I have an anecdote to that effect. Enough candidates that are of quality. It's hard to get seen in there because very likely, if you get denied within hours or 24 hours of applying to a job, a human didn't read your resume. The ATS read your resume, and a great recruiter is going to say, cool, I have this role, and here are the 3 different archetypes I'm interested in interviewing. And they're going to create filters for each archetype. And so maybe you fit one of those archetypes, but a not so good recruiter is going to say, here's my role, here are my filters. And you're going to miss Kit. You're going to miss the person who has an interesting background that knows how to solve hard problems, because they might not have the X and the Y and the Z of your filters. I do think I think Claude or Chat or whatever company of your preference can be really helpful in helping you prepare for interviews, tweak your resume for a job description, assess your resume against a job description, enhance it, um, get out of your own head and writing bullets. Like, there's lots of tools and ways to use AI to speed your application and to make it the best that it can be. But you have to be really specific with your prompts, and don't say fix my resume for this JD. It will not get it right. It will be worse,
Yeah,
guaranteed.
that's 100%.
Um, but there's good and bad in the ecosystem.
Yeah. So there are like applications that you probably see that were specifically, you see the applicants, documentation, resumes, cover letter, CVs, etc. There, you can tell that was tailored to, or I want to use the marketing term, personalized to the job that they're applying for,
Mhm.
versus what I call spray and pray approach. For
Mhm.
sending these hundreds of applications out there. And I don't know what it is in the U.S., but in Canada we have a high unemployment rate. People are giving up
Mhm.
on finding jobs, etc. So it's not a pretty sight out there. So you can, at least I saw statistics last week, was it? Yeah, last week, where it says for every job advertised in Canada, there's 5 people looking for a job. I'm not sure if it's the same for you in the U.S. So it drives a different type of behavior, right? Especially
Yeah.
now with the automation tools that we currently have. Could possibly, somebody knows what they're doing, could automate most of that stuff. What's your honest opinion on the spray and pray kind of a model versus a targeted sniper approach?
Um, I wouldn't. I think spray and pray. It will help you feel good about the volume of effort you're putting into your job search. I
Hmm.
don't know that it's going to be effective in converting to interviews.
Hmm.
Um, and on the flip side, I wouldn't advise somebody to go all in on one job. There's just too many variables. So I wouldn't say full sniper, but there's a middle ground where, uh, because of this, I advise my clients that you have to apply to the job to get the job. So apply to the job. But that's not enough. You need to network your way into that job as well, so that you're getting seen twice. You're getting seen in the system, and then you're also getting either a referral or you're getting in front of the hiring manager, but a human within the company is vouching for you. Your name is getting into the system as well through word of mouth. And that to me is a much more likely to get an interview. Once you get the interview, then you're in a dating process. You're evaluating them, they're evaluating you, and there is so much that you can do now to prepare for the interviews. I will go so far as to say that there's no reason to fail an interview at this point. You can have a conversation with Claude and say, here's my JD, like, what are the top 10 behavioral and technical and industry questions that they're going to ask me, and you can prepare. um, and you should. And then if you fail the interview, or not fail, but if you get into the interview process and you are selected out, it's because it's not a fit. You were dating and it wasn't a fit. And I think that if you are really prepared for your interviews and you don't get the job, it wasn't a fit, and that's okay. But if you weren't prepared for the interviews, that's really on you.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely correct. There is no reason right now we cannot learn anything we want to learn. To be honest with you, with the advancement of technology, you really can learn anything you want to learn. You can learn
Yeah.
how to conduct an interview. You can learn how to become a coach. You can learn how to become whatever you want to become. These things can happen, right? So in the past, we used to go and sit in a classroom somewhere and spend, I don't know how many months and years trying to learn something. I'm not saying it's the same, but it gets you to the next level, I guess. Now, when you reached out to me, we're going to move a little bit to storytelling, which is very important. You mentioned that you said, for instance, something like, I think if I'm remembering this correctly, the story would build, make or break global teams. So how does can you unpack that? What are these stories that make or break teams when you're trying to put a team together? Where have you seen a great product fail, for instance, because of the story did not match or did not travel?
um, I'm trying to think about a good example of that. if I'm rolling out a product globally, the
Yep.
storytelling of why it matters to your customer is really important, and that story would can differ in U.S. and Canada, in the UK and Australia because of the cultural differences. And I definitely saw that at OpenTable that their team was really the way that the company was organized. Um, they had central. This feels stupid to say because it seems obvious, but it's not obvious because other people aren't doing it as well. They had like local teams who lived in country and were from that country and understood that culture, and then they had central teams that were building products and doing the product marketing. And that localization of the product marketing is not just language, right? It's utility of that product and market. And one of the things that we were working on when I was there, when I was at OpenTable, was not just what products are fit or how do we make that product fit for that market, but what is that market and what products in our suite are actually fit for that dining culture. And so you might not lean on CRM for Germany if what they really need is wait lists. If that culture is more towards a more casual dining experience and not maybe they do have Michelin stars, but it's not the UK where they don't want wait lists. They really just need CRM because they have this entire culture around very very high end, high touch dining. And so I think that that localization really matters, and that storytelling of understanding your culture, understanding the dining culture, understanding your customer, what they need, and then how does the product fit, as well as how what part of the product suite is fit for them.
No, what I notice when it comes to storytelling, specifically when it comes down to a product, a company, a pitch of sort, um, there's a source of disseminating these stories. I've been into those sales kickoff meetings when I was in my corporate days, and people bombard with people with other people with the stories, and some of these stories don't even sounds far fetched to some of these people listening to it. Really? Do we do that? I've had this reaction many times.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Do we do that? Does that work? Do people going to buy that? And so I feel like telling a convincing story that is part of the essential elements for a successful story.
Yeah.
And where I feel like people really fall short in telling the story is they don't believe the story and they're just, repeating the words that somebody taught them. And
Yeah.
so that those words lands like whatever. It's like you've been paid to say this. I'm sorry, I'm not believing you. It doesn't come out that passionate enough in your storytelling.
Yeah.
And I interviewed recently a lady from South Africa, and her specialty is collecting stories. So she
Mm.
goes into the corporate world or corporate environment, and she interviews people, and she asks questions about what they do, the job, the product, the service, whatever they're in, because the most important thing is telling a passionate story. So they made the story coming out of that individual. Say, I'm a programmer, I code, I got nothing to do with customers, but that fact that you're coding, that sends a signal of how well you're coding because you're passionate about what you do. That becomes part of the fabric of the larger story, which is the company story. I found that fascinating, to be honest with you. Connect your personal contribution as a part of the story to the overall story. It doesn't matter what you do for an organization. Imagine being a salesperson. That's a big load to carry.
Yeah. I feel very passionately about this, and I feel a little spoiled coming from the food tech industry. That it's, I mean, I'm a food nerd. I love restaurants. I love the act of coming together at a table, and I love good hospitality in a restaurant, however it shows up, and observing it and watching it. It's like the thing that makes me like a happy little like a Twittery person. It's just, I mean, you can hear it in my voice right now. Like it's
I
my
know, you
favorite
can see
thing.
that. I can tell.
But it's easy for me to get excited about the products that we were bringing to market, and I think it's at DoorDash, right? It's very easy to be cynical about food delivery. Gosh, gross. But like, I love restaurants, and food delivery is a means to an end for the restaurant to make money. And then at OpenTable, it's the operating system for the front of house. Like, it's so easy to get excited about. So OpenTable, until about 2020, so OpenTable's a 26-year-old company. 27 now. Crazy, right? Like it's a tech company that is operates like a startup, but it's 27 years old. Until 2020, to be in the sales org, you had to have been in front of house in a restaurant. So when you're selling, you're not selling a story you were taught. You're selling a pain point that you personally experienced, and you it's not just that you know the lingo and you can hang. It's that you fully understand it. Their requirements are not as strict now to be in the sales org, but there are many people in the sales org today that have been at OpenTable for 10 plus years, which in tech is insane, right? That's not normal, but it's because that culture is so
Yes.
strong. But to get away from food tech and that world, I have a colleague from DoorDash that is a CEO of an AI legal tech company called Streamline AI. And they are solving kind of like it, that I'm going to butcher this. So my apologies, Kathy, but like they solve the in-house process for managing work streams for a legal team for an in-house counsel. But Kathy sells this product from her position of being in-house counsel. And so that storytelling is natural, and it's still like it's a B2B SaaS product, right? But which is the least sexy thing to sell, is a generic B2B SaaS product. But
Yeah.
Kathy speaks from her actual pain points, and they're building a product that actually solve those pain points. And I think that's where the storytelling really matters. And yes, good go to market and sales enablement teams can teach that story, but it has to come from the customer's pain point first, rather than like, I built a widget, yay.
Yeah, like I mean, if you're just coming in with another aluminum siding kind of a story, nobody's going to buy that from you. You have to connect it to a problem that you solved and you were personally vested in solving at some point. And I remember my days in the telecom world where I had to go with the technicians to repair. I wasn't a technician; I was an engineer, and I actually had to go in the repair trucks and sit beside them, go into the customers' offices and see what they do, how they fix things, up to a point that I like what you guys do. Let me do this. So I used to started carrying routers under my arm and go into networking rooms and plug things and sometimes break it, but
You're trying, hands on.
trying things. You said a lot of times these technicians were not available. So I used to say, "Oh, you're not available? I want to serve the customer quickly." I go grab the router and come out and repair it. So the point that you're trying to make is very interesting because if you're not, it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, what we do in life, if we're not well vested in what we are doing, it comes out fake to the outside. And people don't
Absolutely.
buy fake. People don't buy fake. It has to come
Yeah.
out authentic. It has to come
Mhm.
out as clear as day, and you have invested in it. And it doesn't make any sense otherwise. I mean, you may as well not work in it, to be honest with you. And if people are in the jobs where they don't believe in what they're doing, and some people call it the Kool-Aid. I don't want to sound like that because Kool-Aid means it's fake. I don't sound. It doesn't need to be Kool-Aid. It means that you're 100% vested in this. You believe in it. You're passionate enough about it to speak about it, regardless if they pay you or don't, regardless if you're
Yeah.
collecting a salary or not. You got to be passionate enough about what you're talking about. So just to switch gear a little bit, because our audience, Kate, is mostly large part of them are translators and localization people, and the industry, all knowledge-based industry for that fact, not just localization industry, is going through a huge transformation right now with all the technology coming in, the AI technology, trying to see where they can automate, see what can they replace, displace, retrain, etc. So um, and things are obviously changing on a day-to-day basis. What they knew yesterday is not the same what they know now, and tomorrow is going to be also different. So
Yep.
if one of them came to you today or tomorrow, what would a session look like with Kate at this point?
Yeah. So there's like a discovery phase, and then there's an execution phase. And the discovery phase is, maybe you already know, maybe you already know what you want to do. I do think it's helpful to like sense check. So we start with, what are you really good at? What do people come to you for advice for? What do you like doing at work? And then the other side of that is, what are you passionate about? What are you interested in? And maybe there are things that are on both lists, and that's the a real career viability, but maybe there's things that are complementary on both lists. So for me, the the answer to that is I'm really good at data and financial models, and I would really honestly say that before the whole customer thing and problem solving. I like that as well, but data is where my brain lives, and art. And perceivably, there's no intersection of those things, but there is, and that's business strategy, which is what I spent most of my career in, because you need the creativity to come up with the strategy, and then you need the data to validate that it's really going to work. And so we have conversations like that of let's validate that. Okay, you want to go apply for this role. Are you applying for that role? Or are you seeking that out because that's what you're good at or what you've done in the past? But what do you actually want to do? What do you actually want with your career? And then we'll also layer in what are your financial needs? What does your life look like? What are you trying to solve for? So that we can, just sense check and validate this kind of career vector rather than a path, like this area that you're pursuing. From an execution standpoint, we talk about how they approached a job search, and tactically their resume, their LinkedIn, their networking. What does the application look like? What does the interview prep look like? And we can walk through each step of that pipeline, and I can support any or all of those steps.
And is this the kind of service right now you're offering, Kate, with your coaching services?
Yeah,
And
I
I'm assuming they can reach out to you on LinkedIn, and you've got our website. Probably will include that in our podcast post edit, and we'll
Yes, you can
share
reach
that
out
with
to me
the
on
team.
LinkedIn. My website has the ability to book directly on my calendar, and the first 30 minutes is always free, just to understand what you're looking for. And if we can solve the problem in 30 minutes, great. And if not,
Yeah.
now we know where to start from. But my business right now is all one-on-one coaching, and I have some coursework that'll come out later this summer.
So you're going to be doing some training.
We'll do some online coursework at a lower price point.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you talk about the which I've been talking about, which I found it very interesting because we have a similar idea on this one. I always called it the you always got to be having a plan B. And even though you got a job, you have a career, things are going well, people get the false sense of permanence, if you will, in a
Hmm.
job or in a post that they currently have. And then all of a sudden, shock. No longer, the job is no longer there. And now they have to scramble. How do you switch that thinking, that mentality from permanence to, I don't want to call it, being on the edge of your seat or always looking for another job, but keep that in the back of your mind. Nothing is permanent, kind of thing. So, is there a mindset shift here, or is it the new reality of things? People in the past, they used to get a job and get it out of university, stay in it till retire, and off you go.
Yeah.
But now that's no longer the case.
It's a great question. And I'll say my parents think I'm crazy. I mean, they both had jobs for the same job for their entire career. I think my dad might have changed two or three times over his 50-year career, but my mom had one. She had two, but she's been in the same one for 40 years. And I have changed a lot. But I think that I was like shoved out of the nest effectively with that first layoff. And so that permanence was never a part of me. Um, and I don't want to criticize anybody that likes that permanence. But I think what you're going to is there are reasons to seek new opportunities. And so it's your choice. And then sometimes you get laid off even when you were doing a great job. And DoorDash laid off a large number of people a couple of years ago, and I saw that. I saw some people that got laid off that was like, that makes sense. And then I saw a number of people got laid off because their department was cut, because the concept was cut, and that's really painful. That really sucks. Sorry, it's not a good word, but um, so what do you do next? And I think it's good if you get laid off, which is I think is where in essence this is going. Give yourself a break. It's not your fault, and give yourself a minute to grieve rather than jumping into the job search, because I think you'll act out of reaction rather than intention. Most layoffs come with a little bit of severance. And so give yourself some space to find the next right thing. And now you have an opportunity to reset. If there was something imperfect about your previous role, then now is your opportunity to go make that right in a new company. Um, One of the another DoorDashism that I love is, um, is it be optimistic? I think it's choose optimism, have a plan, and that is a thing that I live in my personal life, professional and personal. Um, Choose optimism. I know it's easier said than done, and I have down days. Like I'm have ups and
You're
downs.
human. We
I'm
all have
human. I have
notice.
good days and bad days, but even on the bad days, that mindset of choose optimism really, really helps. And have a plan. Have a plan. Um,
Yeah.
I'm a data nerd. I'm a numbers nerd, and so I set goals for myself weekly. Particularly in job search times, of how many emails I'm going to send that week, how many conversations I'm going to have, and that helps me um, feel good about the progress I'm making.
So we talked a lot about people who are in search of a job. They currently have a job or they lost a job, etc. The flip side of this conversation would be young graduates. They never had a job. They're looking for a job. They're struggling for a job, to find a job. And they're just about to launch into this whole job market, if you will. Now, this is not a US thing. That's not a Canadian thing. I've seen it in every country. In fact, 2 years ago, I did three workshops in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia for young graduates out of the universities, and they're all struggling. What would my life look like today or in the future? Should I continue? The question A, should I continue taking my degree? Would it be worth anything down the road because of all the changes that we're seeing? B is how do I find a job? I mean, some of the stuff, yeah, there's career counseling, etc. But some of these kids are coming out of school, they were not ill-equipped in trying to find a job. Um,
Yeah.
they may have a couple of conversations inside of a school system or a college system, university systems, but not really a professionals yet at trying to find a job. So if you were to speak into this category of the human population that they're entering the job market, what would that conversation look like? What would you advise them on?
First, um, I'm also grappling with this concept of, do we still need college degrees or not? I think we do. I don't think we're past that yet. I think we're in that direction, but we're not past needing a college degree. So do it. Um, I don't think you have to have a graduate degree anymore. Um, I would still have done mine. That's a different conversation. Um, and then, but I don't think that having a college degree is the rubber stamp that it used to be for your first job. They're college educated. Give them a job. That's like 1950s. That's not the world today. I strongly advise everybody in college to work. Have do something. Unpaid internship, work in a shop, work in a restaurant, do something on campus. Like I call it your professional education in parallel with your academic education. And more tactically, don't do it freshman year, but like sophomore year onward, do something every summer, every semester, do something. And this is where my 5 internships came from. I had 3 in the summers, I had 2 one summer, and then a one the second summer in New York. And then I worked on campus um, during the semester. And that allows you, when you graduate, you're not applying for your first job. You're applying for your first post grad job. And now, what I position as with my job is to help you articulate the value you created in those roles in a boutique, nannying for a family, as a server. Like as a server, you're anticipating needs, you're doing executional tasks, you might be doing inventory and prep and closing. You understand how a business works. Like there's still goodness. I think that it's difficult to reframe the responsibilities you had or the things you did to the value you created. But as a hiring manager, I want to know, what value are you going to create here? And so that's where, for young people, it's understanding what value you're creating, because that mindset is really what makes you a good professional as well. You're not just doing things, you're contributing to the company's progress. And whether you're in a startup or whether you're in a large corporation, that's where, like, I don't know, work ethic and drive and doing good work comes from.
Yeah, showing up on time and putting 100% into the job that you know put your
Yeah.
name on it. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. There are some human element to the job that there is still required out there, right? So again, most jobs nowadays are in the small to medium enterprise, and maybe large corporations still hiring few people, but not all jobs are government jobs, or some are,
Mhm.
but not all of them. And unionized jobs, like nobody's gonna, no, not everybody's gonna become a postal carrier. I'm not sure if there's such thing anymore. That probably will go around, will go away. But the point I was trying to make is there are, as you said, I'm agreeing with you. There are certain qualifications. Those are inherited in it. You get trained on since you were young. When the parents used to give chores to the kids, they do it for a reason, to
Yep.
teach responsibility, to get them to figure out, this is my responsibility. I'm gonna stick to it, and that's part of that discipline. And then as they grow older, I'm supposed to show up to work at 9. Well, I'm there at 8:30. I'm supposed to leave at 5. I'm gonna leave a little extra after 5. So it sort of puts that I'm vested into my job, not just showing up because I have a degree. By the way, for those of you out there that you think I have a degree give you some privilege, it helps,
Hmm.
but I don't know how much of a privilege it is now. It helps, but it's out there. I'm saying education is good, but
Hmm.
just don't hold that degree over your head and say hire me because I have the degree. Many of your classrooms, look around you, your classmates. You're not the only one. So
Exactly. Exactly. And many of your classmates have been working, so they're
100%.
ahead of you. That's
Yeah.
the table stakes have changed.
100%. If just one of my wrapping question, if you don't mind, Kate. So, if you could send a one sentence back to the art history graduate version of yourself,
Mhm.
what would that? You mentioned it earlier. That's why I wanted to bring it up. What would that say?
Ugh. Take more accounting classes.
Take more accounting classes. I love that. Maybe I should go take
Uh,
more accounting
I love
classes.
my degree. My degree helped me learn how to think about hard problems, how to look at an obtuse
Mm.
situation and deconstruct it into its parts. Um, but it didn't give me the hard skills to get a job. So, accounting.
So what's next for the Direction Over Perfection? That's the name of your company. Where is it going?
Yeah. I'm expanding. So I will admit, I've been doing this for like 6 months. I mean, I've been coaching people my entire professional career, and now I'm just formalizing that into a business. But the business of Direction Over Perfection is still iterating. So I have one-on-one clients. I'm building a group coaching program, um, tinkering with what that scope would be and look like. And this, I've launched a podcast to bring the voice of other people like me who have had nonlinear careers and help parents and young people, young adults, see what that looks like. Get comfortable with discomfort and risk and jumps, because the most interesting careers are rarely linear. And so I'm telling those stories. And then,
Rarely. Yeah.
right. And then, I'm working on some coursework, online coursework, 'cause just to meet my clients where they are. There are some people that want to talk to me in person, and there's a lot of people in the younger generation that just don't want to do that. They want to do something on their own online, and so I think that coursework will be helpful. So that's what's coming next.
Where can people find you and work with you or listen to your show?
Directionoverperfection.com is my website. My Instagram and TikTok handles are at directionoverperfection. And my podcast is also called Direction Over Perfection.
I love the consistency in branding. This is good. On purpose. Um,
Yes.
Any other question or any other comment you'd like to share with the audience?
You are smart and capable, and you can do hard things. And job searching is hard, and this job market is very it's a real challenge. There are things that are working for you and things that are working against you. But as long as you have faith that you can do it, that you are valuable, and that you can add value to someone else and their company, you're going to do just great.
No, I appreciate this closing from your side, Kate. I feel like this is the most appropriate closing that I've seen for a long time. Believe in yourself. That's your message. The world hasn't ended yet. Robots are not growing legs and arms and replacing you. In fact, we do have other conversations on this channel on this particular topic. There's a lot of fears out there, bots rising, kind of an idea, and I don't have a place anymore. In fact, we're hosting an AI exchange. I host that on every Friday. I call it the AI Exchange Networking event, 9 to 10 in the mornings on Fridays. And this week, we'll be talking about the Defensible zone, where there is an application or an agentic AI that got created where you put in your position and or what your job is, and it will go analyze it using a variety of models of AI out there, and it will tell you how defensible your position is. It gives you a little graph, and you can slide the graph up and down, and it would tell you. I saw a demo on it yesterday, and we're doing another public demo tomorrow. And it's interesting because if you say, let's say you are a translator or you are an engineer or whatever you are, and you put that in there, there are core value that you bring in, technology cannot replace.
Yes.
And those core values, that essence of who you are, we cannot transfer into a mathematical formula, encapsulate it, dissect it into data, and put it into a database to mimic you. That's singularity, and we're way far from singularity. We're not there yet. It will be a while. Don't worry about it. So that is very, very important. Realize who you are as a human being, as a professional. Realize what your values are and start from that point, because the rest can be automated. I get it. Writing an email is not your value. Anybody can write an email.
Right.
Knowing what to say in an email, the strategy around the words, the strategy around the messaging, nobody can perfect that other than you.
I agree. And I believe strongly that AI is not going to replace people. I think that the people that AI can make you faster. It can make you more efficient. It might mean that there are 3 people on a team instead of 7 or 5. But if you learn how to use AI to make you faster and stronger and better, you're not going anywhere. Somebody has to manage the AI.
100%. We have to be in charge of the technology and not the technology in charge of us.
Yeah.
We are in control as a human being, and that's the essence of anything that we do nowadays. So if we just relinquish the fact that technology is going to take over, that's a defeatist mentality, and I don't agree with it. We have a lot more value to offer.
I totally agree.
Kate, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for joining me on this conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been great.
I really enjoy these types of conversations. It's pretty interesting, and it's very timely, as you can tell from the conversation that's going on in the media, and people are looking for jobs, people are losing their jobs, people are contemplating, how do I move to the next level in my career, or what's my next positions going to look like? For the audience, I want to thank you on my behalf and Kate's behalf for joining me on this conversation. I really appreciate it. If you're coming on our YouTube channel, thanks for watching us. If we are on the audio channels, thanks for listening in. And if you are checking our blog post where I summarize these conversations into an archivable form where you can do the research on these previous conversations that we've had, robinayoub.blog, feel free to check it out. You can see all that information there. I thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for listening in, and thanks for your contribution. And for the rest of the audience, I'll see you in the next episode.